One.
Welcome back, everybody, to the main stage at Event Tech Live, USA Canada 21, and to our next session, Measure What Matters, Innovations in Event Measurement. And I'm delighted to welcome a gentleman who I first met on the Event Industry News podcast a few months ago, founder and chairman of the Experiential Marketing Measurement Coalition, Dax Kolner, joins Event Tech Live. Dax, good to see you again. Welcome to Event Tech Live.
Hello, happy Royal Wave to you.
I'm going to hand straight over to you because we're a couple of minutes late starting, Dax. So it's over to you and your panel, and I'll see you a little bit later on with some questions.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. And joined with me today is Rodrigo Espinosa and Trisha Houston, who I will give them a chance to introduce themselves. Thank you for joining. We are all passionate measurement geeks when it comes to event measurement. And so that is the focus of today's session. We are going to talk about innovations in measurement. You see the Experiential Marketing Measurement Coalition at the bottom of my name. Yes, I am the chairman for that group, and these two are part of that group. I'm also the strategy director at Smile. You can hear my accent is American, but I am dialing in today from the United Kingdom. I live in England. However, we have two Americans with me who are in America. We're going to each talk a little bit about our history with measurement. I just think it's interesting to hear a little bit around how we've arrived at this place, how we got into this industry, what led us to, deep dive in measurement as part of our career. So I will go last, I think, and tell you guys my story. Maybe Trisha, we can start with you and tell us your story, and then we'll go to Rodrigo.
Sure. It sounds great. Thanks, Dax, and welcome. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. So like Dax mentioned, my journey here today started in experiential marketing, but is now ended in measurement and consulting. So I'm dialing in from Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. I worked on events for big brands like Coca-Cola, global events with an agency called Ignition back in the early 2000s. And when I was doing that, I saw some opportunities for improvement in how measurement was integrated into strategy. And so I did a career swap, went back, I got some advanced education in market research, and have stayed in that industry. My current role is leading a team of experience designers at MMR Live Experience Design, and our goal is to enhance every experience. And our point of view is that measurement itself is an experience, and I know we'll talk more about that today, but I'm very passionate about not just what we measure, but actually how we go about measuring it, because I think it makes a big difference.
Rodrigo, you want to give your background?
Yes, like most, I think I stumbled onto this industry in marketing and experiential and events way back when, and doing trade shows and exhibits and pop-ups in stores, in retail space, and also travel space. And as the years went on, and experiential marketing became more and more part of the marketing mix, measurement became more and more important. We would be in the C-suite pitching these programs, and I'm very passionate about proving how experiential marketing in the face-to-face space accelerates the sales funnel, accelerates the awareness funnel for brands, and ultimately acquisition and share of wallet. My role currently is with MC Squared. I am SVP of Strategy and Marketing. I'm responsible for our marketing and our brand as an agency, and then also on the client side, working with brands like Samsung and TikTok and Lucid and others, developing their programs from a strategic point of view.
Nice, thank you. It's funny, I didn't know you guys work with Samsung. It's one of our clients at Smile too, so we'll have to talk shop sometime without disclosing any confidential data, of course. My journey in measurement. I have been in this industry since 1999. That is a long ass time. And when I started, I had no idea about, to be honest, much about marketing in the first place, and certainly not about measurement. However, I was fascinated to learn as I got into this industry. I started at Jack Morton Worldwide. to learn that we could collect information about what was working and not working in marketing and then make changes based on that information. That was a mind blower. And ever since then, I've been passionate about measurement. I spent 10 years at Jack Morton, and we tried to solve measurement for event marketing, for events. And I will say we did not succeed in that effort. We spent a lot of money, a lot of resources, and I think what we ended up with wasn't bad. It just was so complicated. It tried to do too much. It tried to figure out everything that I think it was so complicated it wasn't useful. And I know Jack Morton has done loads since then. This is, 10 years ago since that effort. So nothing about what they're doing now. It just was not great then. It was super complicated. And I think when we talk about measurement that matters, we're going to talk a bit about simplicity and ensuring that we're focusing in on the things that matter most and that they're understandable by people. So moving from Jack Morton, went across a number of other agencies: Sparks, Momentum, Publicis, GES, and now at Smile. And over that time, I continued to invest my energy and working with smart people to better understand what measurement could be for events. And I think that has turned into that germination led to the Experiential Marketing Measurement Coalition, which we'll talk more about, I promise. But my history has been, I'm definitely not a data analyst. I'm not an analytics guy. I'm not a statistician by any stretch, but I do love measurement and I love talking about it because I think, and I've seen evidence to support that if you don't measure or if you don't measure well, it's very difficult to protect your budget, to protect your program, or to grow the budget, because invariably event marketing is like the first thing that gets cut when budget cuts happen. And I think as event people, we have to use smart technology and innovation and show data to support why the investment was worthwhile. And so, yeah. And then lastly, finally, measurement leads to continuous improvement. Like, you have to discover what worked and what didn't work in order to make changes so it gets better over time. So with that, I think, this idea of innovation in measurement and looking at the past year of a move to a lot of digital events and experiences, I thought I'd pose the question back to my colleagues here and ask them what's going on from a data standpoint. What are they seeing when it comes to events, online and offline, that feels different now than maybe it did a year or two ago? So maybe I'll just go around again, and Tricia, go to you first, and what's happening with measurement in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to punt it, but I'd love to hear, I think Rodrigo here has been more deep in some of it. So any chance we can start with you, Rodrigo?
Yeah, we can flip flop. Let's go to Rodrigo.
Yeah, let's flip flop on this one because I know pre-meet he had some great stuff.
Of course. Thank you, Tricia and Dax. So I think what we're seeing in the space the last 10, 12 months, 14 months that have been obviously very turbulent is that the business objectives of why an event is going to occur, mostly digital, in the last 12 months, those are paramount, right? And that's leading to measurement conversation, right? Because there are more folks with the budgets are responsible for budgets, so it's not just the event manager or the trade show manager or even the VP of communications. It's public relations is in the conversation. There's advertising is in the conversation. So the more budget holders with different business objectives are coming in, and the event, and in the case I'm speaking to, is digital. The digital event has to meet different criteria and it has to be measured differently. So what I'm seeing recently is up front, the conversation around strategy and measurement is happening sooner rather than later. What I'd seen in years beyond was that we have an event, we have this physical manifestation of the brand. Oh yeah, we need to measure it too. And now I've seen that flip around and be like, here are the business objectives, how we're going to make sure we're going to be successful before we start talking about logistics, operations, creative, and design.
Cool, thank you. Tricia, anything to add, or you want me to jump in?
Absolutely. No, I just kind of wanted to build on because I think in my world, We touch events, and we also touch some retail and restaurants, so permanent installations. And the trends we've seen kind of piggyback on what Rodrigo just shared is really focusing around the purpose of what you actually need to measure in this digital age. Because when everything is essentially able to be counted, it's more important to be very precise about the purpose of what you're counting and measuring, so you're not overburdening those participants. So I think starting with what Rodrigo shared about what really ties back to the business, what ties back as a diagnostic to let us know that we're moving the needle, are the critical things to consider. Because I'll share, in the market research world, the things we're seeing is, more than half of surveys are completed by participants on their mobile. So that experience of making sure you're providing a feedback experience that is engaging, and so they don't drop out, and also that it's short. Because in a world full of digital everything, events, shopping, everything moved to our phone, right? Think about all the feedback opportunities that everybody's basically hit with every day. If your survey is over 10 minutes, you're surely getting bad data. If it's 5 to 10, you're getting questionable data, right? If it's, not an engaging survey. But those who are coming in with short, to the point asks, especially in this digital forward time period, I think are going to get the most actionable data sets from their participants.
Yeah, I love everything you said. I totally dig it. I mean, when I'm doing digital events, one of the things that I'm doing more and more is integration of measurement throughout the experience. Can we ask a question to pulse check how the audience is perceiving the content? How is the quality of the sessions or the activations? How is it hitting them right then and there? And that's one of the benefits, I think, of the digital interface, is that you have access to the whole, you're kind of controlling the whole experience. But I totally agree with you that bringing mobile devices into that, as we all have these devices with us at all times, right? I mean, I think that is going to be a critical innovation even when physical experiences return, which is now we can use our mobile to pulse check on how people are feeling about the experience as it happens, just as we've been doing in digital. The other thing I would mention in terms of my experience in the online world is, and you kind of touched on this, Trish, which is that there's so much data. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And you have to understand, like, most of that crap doesn't matter. It doesn't actually tell you how you're impacting business outcomes. And so I think it's really critical for us event people to parse out the stuff that isn't super important and focus on the things that are important. And I think that's actually a nice transition to the next question at hand, which is what's important? What should we be measuring? I know that the Experiential Marketing Measurement Coalition, which we're all part of, has a point of view on this, but maybe you guys can also give me your opinion, and I'll give mine on what metrics matter and what people should be paying attention to. Who wants to go first? Raising hands. Okay,
I'll go this
Trisha.
time. So, we'll keep it interesting, right? So whenever we're thinking about what to actually measure, you got to come back to purpose. If you have the answer and you have the data at hand, can you envision how you're going to use it? And if the answer is, well, it would just be interesting, or it'd be nice to know, or it's something we feel like we should just classify, don't ask it. That's a simple way to kind of start with the end in mind of how you're actually going to use the information. One thing I've been working on over the past couple of years is emotional engagement. We think that's very important to include, and we've been doing some work here locally with the University of Georgia's State College here that we've worked with to kind of help calibrate how do we capture emotional data from folks in a heightened positive state, right? Especially at physical events. And it is possible. There's various ways to do it. There's nothing super proprietary about it, but really capturing those connections. Because if we think about the briefs that are written for a lot of experiential events, it's about creating loyalty and connections, and all the logistics and everything that have to happen to make that execute well are important. But let's not forget about the connections that we're trying to make in the first place.
Yeah, right on. Rodrigo, anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, something that you noted, Dax, about the phone, right? The physical iPhone that we all carry around and have. We're taking some learnings from the measurement of a digital experience, an immersive digital experience, where you're able to, track the folks 24/7. To your point about controlling the environment, taking that learning to the physical manifestation of a brand now, and how we design the customer journey to incorporate those touch points, not just about brand awareness, but about measurement in that moment in time, to Trisha's point about emotional engagement. And so, measurement now is just like strategy is implemented throughout the entire process. Measurement now is implemented throughout that entire process as well, of how the customers are going to engage with the brand. A lot of the work that I do and that we do at MC Squared is audience centric, right? It's like, it's to Trisha's point, purpose, business objective, who are you speaking to, and what do you want to say to them, right? And as these engagements expand and they scale, your audiences become varied, right? And so understanding what to ask which audience segment becomes really, really important too. And to the point that was made about, there is so much data, there's so many things you can ask, that the expertise comes in understanding your audience, what your business objective is, what you're designing, and what to ask, and more importantly, what not to ask, right? And that's something that we struggle with, right, in our space, because there's so much that you can ask. It's a moment in time, whether it's physical or digital, and there's this influx of wanting to know, and so it's hard to push that back sometimes.
That's right.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think, we're talking quite a bit about surveying, and, surveying is not perfect. I think no one would disagree with that statement, but it's the best way I know to understand what people are thinking. And so you have to ask them questions. How you ask those questions and what types of questions you ask, that is where the magic happens, I think, when it comes to measurement. And I see so many bad surveys, even, just by great big companies, and asking me to fill them out. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You're skewing the data. Your question is asking more than one question. There's survey best practices. And I think we'll come to I want to go to the coalition next, but just a couple of quick other comments based on what you both said. And I want to talk innovation for a minute more on measurement. The ability to evaluate emotional response is also something that we're experimenting with at Smile, because we, like you, believe that delivering emotional resonance is one of the reasons you do an event. It's hearts and minds. And so how do we understand whether we are impacting people's emotions in the way that we want to? At Smile, we call it return on emotion, and we use things like facial analysis to understand what are people feeling, and that can work in physical events. It can work online. So I'm with you on that. The other thing I just wanted to quickly mention is the other thing I've noticed with virtual is now you can track essentially everything someone does. We understand the entirety of their experience in a way that was more challenging, or has been challenging in the past with physical events. I think that will come into physical events. We're looking at ways to economically track movement through physical environments. And I will say finally on that note, it's not necessarily about correlating to business outcomes, that data, but rather about optimizing the experience as it happens. So you can understand like where are crowded points, where are less crowded, and making real-time changes. So it's not measurement in the classic sense, because measurement is sort of like, how did this perform? But it is an interesting use of data to optimize the event as it's happening. And I think it can be done online, and it can be done offline in physical environments.
That's great. I'll add, before you switch to the coalition, I'll add one thing there, Dax, because I think what you said is critical about purpose. So I like to think about, so what you said, measurement in the classical sense to measure ROI. Definitely needed. Keep it slim, keep it tied to the core objectives you need. I used to think that it was about stopping doing that and focusing more on the connections, but you still have to have those kind of proof point metrics. Then you move to the diagnostic metrics you talked about. What's working, what's not, where do I need to course correct in real time? The third bucket we like to push folks to do is really like iterative design, which can be qualitative. So that can be partially to update your experiential environment just through conversations, because you don't need statistical significance or a huge survey for somebody to tell you that something's not working or something, a flow could be better, right? A sample of just one person saying something is broken is enough to consider it. And events are a gold mine for that, both the things that are at the event or even things that your clients and brands are trying to test out. Just have conversations with folks. It's all about the purpose of how much data you actually have to collect.
It's so funny. I was just remembering I did a project with Publicis, a traditional advertising project, and there was an enormous amount of money spent testing the creative for a 30-second advertisement TV ad. And the data came back, and it was like an A versus B, and I could tell you, just looking at the two spots, it was obvious which one was good and which one sucked. I didn't need a quantitative study of millions of people like looking at the stuff. And I think sometimes we forget that as event or experiential marketers, our observation and our conversations more qualitatively with the people who are at the event is an innovation. Like, let's rely on that stuff. We
Yes.
know what's good. Let's get some voices to validate what we already know, and use those to supplement the more quantitative data-oriented stuff that we're collecting. Cool. So I think in the remaining 10 minutes, oh, sorry, go ahead, Rodrigo. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to touch on something that you noted about the real time, the real time measurement, right? We have this, one of the areas and one of the programs we worked on with TikTok digital immersive experiences was this ability to measure in real time what's working and what's not working, and then tweak accordingly. And I think that's an exciting next phase in our space on the physical front. If you do the measurement correctly and you're able to gather the right data points, you could tweak in real time how the experience manifests itself for the audience, right? And I think that for me, that's a very exciting next phase for us to be in, and to see how we use measurement in that space.
It's exciting and scary because event people tend to want to plan everything that completely out and then let the event flow out on its own. But if you see something and you're like, oh, we got to fix that right here and now, then that's a different way of operating for many event people. But I think it is the future. All right, so I want to turn our attention
and I would say,
yeah.
That where we're finding some success, because you're absolutely right about that, it's scary to want to say real time tweak the design to event people, but if we can say by end of day, within a certain period of time, the next day, right, there's some more comfort there for that space culturally.
Thinking about like exhibits and staff, and doing end of day briefings and chatting about what happens the next day and kind of retraining people on the go is a way to do that. So I hear you. That's cool. So let's talk about the coalition. The three of us are part of a much larger group of event professionals who have come together for this experiential marketing measurement coalition. Kind of a mouthful. It's the EMMC. If anyone is online, as of course you are all online, stupid thing to say, it's at eventmeasurement.org is the website. Let's talk a little bit about what it is and maybe why we've arrived at it, the three of us. And I do have some slides I can share, but let's quickly talk about it first, and then I'll do the slides. So the coalition it's a group of people who are focused on better measurement for our industry. Why don't you talk about, Tricia, you first, if that's cool, how you've arrived at it, and then Rodrigo, and then I'll go into some of the materials.
I'm here because of the audacity of what we're trying to achieve and the simplicity of it, because I think at the core, it's about helping everybody be better who's passionate about events and passionate about their industry, because in a lot of ways, events and experiences are the core of a brand, not just the fact that tours are out there or you're doing pop-ups or you're doing trade shows like this. Businesses compete on experience nowadays. So the more we can show the effectiveness in a single or very simple measurement way, a la other benchmarking, efforts, say you brought up ad testing, Dax, right? There's a way to see, what ad performs better versus benchmarks or norms. That's why I think this is so important, because it can help everyone succeed and prove the value of what we all know, of that experiences are transformative. But we have to have the data and proof to show everybody the power who isn't yet drinking the Kool-Aid.
Rodrigo? You're on mute, buddy.
I think. Oh,
There you are. You're back up. Now you're back.
Okay, I'm good now. Okay. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting question, right? And I echo what Tricia was just noted. The multiple agencies I've been at, and when I had my own agency, every CEO is always tasked me with get me into the C-suite, right? Get us into the C-suite, right? Events, experiential marketing, et cetera. And so, and to varying degrees, some success in that space. Measurement becomes so important at that level, right? And our industry keeps moving in that direction successfully. And I think the more we can come around a set parameters, definitions of how we measure and why that measurement matters to the business, to Tricia's earlier point around purpose, the more successful we're all going to be. I'm excited to be part of that, larger purpose within our industry to move it forward.
Nice, thank you. My neighbors are yelling at me because I'm working at 9:30 at night here in the UK. I'm going to share a few pages with you guys. Maybe not spend more than 5 minutes on this. Yes, we're flogging the coalition a little bit, but I want to share with you kind of what this is and why we think it's important. So this is the Experiential Marketing Measurement Coalition, EMMC. It's a not-for-profit, and that's why I feel okay kind of putting my sales cap on for a minute, because we're not making, none of us is making money here off of this thing. As I mentioned, it's a group of experiential marketing people who have come together to better measurement for our industry. Tricia said it. It's like we believe, even though many of us are competitors, direct competitors, who are part of this coalition, we believe that if the industry does more and better measurement, that it will help all of us. It will elevate the industry itself. And especially right now, I think when the industry is in a lot of flux and we're not sure what's coming back after the pandemic has hit us, this is a chance for us to almost refresh and rethink about how do we evaluate events so that we can protect and grow this viable, valuable, critical industry. So our mission is a couple of things. First of all, we've talked about this a couple of times, but it is connecting measurement to business outcomes. How can we use measurement to indicate to stakeholders who are responsible for budgets, et cetera, to show them this is where the money's going and why we're spending it and why it's worthwhile. So we're looking to standardize a set of key metrics that we will promote across the industry. We will tell the industry, and we're working on a release of thought leadership on this right now. We will tell everyone what this group thinks we should be measuring when it comes to perception change and behavior change. It's really about those two aspects and connecting those to potential business results. That is where we can help the industry save itself to get investment in the industry, to get investment in events. We're also working on an initiative where we roll up data from programs that we're working on so that we can share aggregated, sort of anonymized data for benchmarking. So Tricia mentioned this, like how do we compare to the average? If I'm working on a technology conference and I can go into this database and say, I want to know what technology conferences in the Eastern US, what are the scores against these key metrics, so that when I do measurement, I can compare it against the averages. And it's not just based on my own data or the client's data, but it's based on a large data lake of data that comes from multiple sources. All of this is work in progress, but it is something that we're working on. And then finally, promoting better measurement practices. We are looking to publish and talk about measurement and stuff like we're doing today, talk about why it's important, what good measurement looks like, and we will be publishing thought leadership that is very prescriptive, that tells people here are the things and the tools you should be using to measure your programs more effectively. And then the last piece I'll mention on this is we have partnered with Leeds Beckett University. And Leeds Beckett has an event marketing group, and they're going to be doing a certification model in which companies and brands can submit how they're doing measurement to understand, are they doing a good job, getting a stamp of approval, like a certification that says, yes, you're doing good measurement work. And if you're not doing a great job, they'll tell you, like, here's where you can improve. And so that is designed to help us kind of have like a third party that's not a competitor, help everyone up their measurement game. Because everyone can, every practitioner of measurement can do better. And I think that's our goal is, again, more and continuous improvement when it comes to measurement. I think that covers the most basic elements of it. Membership is done through, if you're interested in joining, go to eventmeasurement.org. It's a very simple application process. We evaluate apps. It's just a couple of questions, and then we bring people in. And then at that point, you can determine how deep you want to go. Like Rodrigo, Tricia, and I are pretty deep. Like we're part of a number of action groups that are looking at different elements of of our initiatives. But there are people who aren't in any action groups, and it takes less time commitment on their part. It's like a call every 2 months, and everyone's learning a lot. We have good conversations, just like we had today, about what's happening, what are we seeing, what innovations are arising. And so, yes, I'm trying to sell membership for this group. We have about 50 members now, but we're always looking to grow our membership, and the fees are very reasonable, I think you will find. All right, I'm going to stop selling. We can actually close the slides, guys, and I think we can maybe pause now for questions, if that's cool. Okay, they're not quite ready for us to take questions. So here's what I would like to say in the interim. So let's talk about the EMMC, and maybe you guys can talk a little bit about your experience in the group. Well, how have you found it? What have you been up to in it? What do you appreciate about it? Like, give me your sales pitch a little bit on the EMMC. Go ahead, Tricia, first.
Sure, absolutely. I think I've been pleasantly surprised with the true collaborative nature of the conversation, because you hit on it earlier, Dax. A lot of us are directly competitive. A lot of us bring to the table some things that we might consider proprietary in the measurement space. And nobody's asking us to share those things that make us stand apart. But the openness with the thought leadership that everybody brings to the table has been refreshing. Because I think everyone who is involved, especially in the action groups in particular from the beginning, really sees the value of what we're working towards. So we're excited to have some new folks along.
Nice. Rodrigo?
Hi, guys.
Hit the
Thanks for holding the fort for me whilst I was over on one of our other stages. Some comments have come in. I've just dived back into to the main stage feed here, and some comments coming in. Some really sort of vociferous comments. Well said about marketing cuts. It is not right! Exclamation mark. And stupid. They added into the chat. Well said about short surveys. People don't have time to answer a bunch of questions. Just some of the comments that have come in on the group chat. And I'm now going to turn to a couple of questions that have come in on Glisser, which should just wrap things up nicely for us and bring us to time. Firstly, what are some of your suggestions to get virtual attendees engaged emotionally? Dax, I'll throw that to you, and if you would like to field it to the other guys on the panel, maybe.
I have to say, it's not that different virtually than it is physically. If you understand and dimensionalize your participants as full human beings, you can determine ways to gain emotional connection. So here's an example. I'm working on a project right now with IMEX, which is called IMEX Buzz Hub. And in the registration process, we ask the general questions like email, the professional role, all that kind of stuff. We also ask very human questions to get underneath that. We ask people, what social causes are you interested in? We ask them, how do you learn? Are you a visual learner? Are you a hands-on learner, auditory learner? We ask them, what are your hobbies and interests? And because we're understanding the human beings that we are, delivering an event content to, we can then customize that to deliver emotional connection. So we can understand, like, if people are visually oriented, that it's going to be a deeper level of experience if we let them draw pictures when they're learning. We have learned that people love talking about their pets. And so we can have a human networking experience where we just talk about pets and people freaking love their pets. And that's love as an emotion right there. So I think it comes down to knowing that we're talking to humans and understanding that humans are emotional and rational beings. And if you can dig under the hood of what their emotions, what drives them emotionally, you can create content and stories and experiences to help resonate with them.
Rodrigo, Tricia, do either of you want to add to that particular question about suggestions to get virtual attendees engaged emotionally?
People first, people first, people first. Just echoing what Dax said, one thing we do like to do is try to extend into the physical environment, even when the event is virtual, to make that personal connection where possible. What can you ship to home? What can you have them do? Like Dax said, drawing, is there something to connect to their physical environment so they're not only focused on their screen?
Absolutely. I should reference back to yesterday as well, where we created the hashtag data silo dog, because in one of our sessions looking at data silos, one of the panelists, they had a really young puppy who was making noise and wanted to come up for cuddles in the middle of the session. So we brought the dog into the session, and I could almost feel collectively the increase in emotion from everybody who was tuning into that, just with the addition of a dog into the panel on that one.
Amazing.
Let's go to our second question on Glisser before we wrap up the session, guys. Everyone collects data. Should organizations outsource the analysis of data or keep it in-house?
Tricia, you want to start with that, and then I can give my thoughts on it as well?
Yeah, my 2 cents, even within our own team, we like to keep the collection of data and the analysis of data separate, because we think there's a different lens that you have to put on interpretation than you need to do to QC strong data collection practices. So if you're not doing that even in your own organization, I would suggest it. And then having a third party is like the icing on the cake to have that validation.
Yeah, I'll add that we similarly at Smile, we do the collection when we've integrated measurement into our production process. So it's really interesting because when I was at past agencies, we had a measurement team. Now everyone who's working on an event at Smile has a role in measurement, from producer to logistics to technical. And each of them has a role in ensuring that we're collecting data effectively across whatever channels or touch points they're managing. But when it comes to the analysis of data, we outsource it. We have a bench of data people, and I love that because they bring, as you said, a more objective standpoint to it, and they visualize it and bring it to life in ways that we are not experts at. And so it's not something we brought in-house, maybe at some point, but for now, it's a nice church and state way to kind of do measurement. And then, by the way, after they do their work, we come back in and we give our contextual sort of like qualitative analysis of what we're seeing. So we're saying like, here are the charts and graphs that report the data in a nice way. Now, what do we think about it? Because I think as event professionals, it's important for us to put it through our lens and our experience. Anything to add, Rodrigo?
Yeah, I would add, just going slightly back to the former question about designing for humans, right, and designing for human emotion. We've talked a lot about purpose and business objectives and ROI, and those are all really, really important. But we sometimes get a little bit too deep into the fact that as humans we want to engage in a fun, immersive way with other humans, and laughter and funny, like the dog example. We had one of our immersive environments for TikTok with a dancing llama in the background, which really had nothing to do with the content, but it made people feel good, and it provided that aspect of it. And so sometimes we can forget that humans want to interact in a way that is human, right? That is fun, that is engaging. And so I would just note that from a design perspective.
Cool.
Maybe if I
Nice.
could throw my hat into that question as well. Should organizations outsource the analysis of data or keep it in-house? Why not do both? Because as we know from politicians, if you give two of them the same set of data, they will interpret in two vastly different ways. So with the amount of data that's flowing around now, why not have different sets of eyes looking at it? Because you may find different outcomes and different things that Team A didn't spot that Team B would spot. So I see no reason why you couldn't do both, personally.
I love that. We like the saying, like, data is the new soil, not the new oil. You know, everybody has access to data. We have too much. Even bring the client. Sometimes the closer you can get them to it, I mean, data can be a team sport. And I know that's really off to what we're used to doing. But to your point, why not? You know, they're going to have access to some anyway.
Absolutely. Guys, we're right on time, as I would expect from three more consummate event professionals who have joined Event Tech Live USA Canada 21. Dax, the only disappointment that I've got is that there are no guitars in the background of your video today, as there were when we met on the podcast a few months ago. So, you know, I was hoping to see some instruments. There we go.
To make up for it.
There we go. At least we managed to get some drumsticks. It certainly does. It puts me at ease. Guys, thanks so much. We've had Dax Kallner, Rodrigo Espinosa, and Tricia Houston joining us at Event Tech Live USA Canada today to look at Measure What Matters, innovations in event measurement. Thanks to all three of you for being on the panel. It's been great to see you, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks.